Now study the proportions of the hands, especially the knuckles. So you can see how the palm is broken up into exactly half of the length of the fingers almost. Just kind of like we did with the body proportions, you can see kind of how that structure is with these hands. Draw the hand over the guides below while studying the reference above. Okay, now remember this is the palm, so we're going to just use this reference above to kind of try to just draw in as good as we can the palm. You can see that the knuckles go really close to the skin there. Now this is going to be the meaty part of the hand because we are drawing the palm, remember? And we'll just copy what we see above. There's the palm. We kind of have this line that comes down there. We can kind of get that shape. There's the wrist bone. And we'll just kind of do as good as we can, just imitating what we see above, okay? Those knuckles kind of get a little wider. Oops. You can make it a little wider where the knuckles are if you want. Okay, so we kind of have a palm here. You can see there's this line if you draw where the knuckles meet. It's kind of where that fold is. Now here's the back of the hand, so we'll just be referencing above as well. And this time we're going to have to draw our own little structure, okay? So remember, we have 5 fingers, so we'll put the middle finger there, and we'll just give ourselves 5 bones where they attach to the wrist bone here. Now remember, you're not going to have to do this every time you draw a hand, but we can just think about the bones and the structure on this picture. Okay, now you notice the knuckle bones aren't right here at the edge. They're down inside the hand a little bit more. So let's just draw 1, 2, 3, 4 knuckles. There's 5 down here, 4 here. It's because the 5th one is right over here in the corner. Comes up. And then we can just continue now about the halfway point. So this here line is about a halfway point between where the knuckle is and where the first joint is. It's a good guide. And then, we're going to just continue that as good as you can. And just draw his fingers over top. Nothing really fancy I'm doing, just kind of making a tube over top of these knuckles. Your fingers kind of continue, but that skin is going to stop right there, right? And this flap of skin, we just follow this. And then we have these nice knuckle places where we can just kind of throw some indications of where those knuckle joints are going and where this bone actually goes here. Where you remember there's 5 down here, so this one goes over here. This one goes here. So it's kind of looks a little crooked. But obviously you don't need to draw all of those joints. And then if we erase those knuckle circles and just kind of indicate where those bones would actually be, that's actually in the hand, you actually see that kind of stuff. Let's just do some little lines to represent these parts. Fingernails. And there you have yourself a really simple hand based on that shape. Oops. Okay, so finish this out like that. And then finally, to continue with some of the proportions and the correct way to do it and the wrong way, like here's another example of the wrong way where people have usually draw where the knuckles are is where the skin stops on the fingers. Well, remember that this place is usually right in between the knuckle here and the first joint, okay? Right in between. So keep that in mind. You can also see how that applies to the fist here. Where it stops is right in between the knuckle and the first joint. And so you can see a lot of times beginners will draw those knuckles going all the way up there, and it's just wrong. It's not how it's drawn. It's not how the body is. So think about that, keep that in mind, and then you can also see it's broken down a little bit here into fours. So here's that skin line, knuckle, knuckle, and it's just, these are 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. And so, you know, it doesn't apply the same to every single finger, but it's pretty close to that. Okay? Notice how the knuckles are positioned in relation to the fingers. Okay, so study the basic hand tutorial. So this is the basic tutorial. I didn't even put numbers here because it's so basic. So we got the kind of skewed square. We add these triangles to it. You add the kind of bone structure lines underneath that really quick. Is where you want the fingers to be positioned, and then you can just draw over top of that really quickly. Now that you know how these bones and knuckles relate to each other. Finish drawing the 3 hands below, or any of the techniques that you just learned. So we have our thumb. I'm just going to keep that pretty close there. We have this triangle that sticks out there. See how quickly you can just kind of throw down basic finger shapes with all this knowledge in mind, and it works. It just works because that's how the hands are structured. And remember, we can have those kind of diamond shape shapes coming out. Add some of that if you want, and suddenly you kind of have a decent hand shape. Okay? We can add some of those like knuckle lines, you know. My fingers are pretty skinny looking. Throw on some fingernails real quick. Boom. Now, we can decide what we want to do here, but I'm going to just do this one because we can add to this. So, let's say I'm just going to add that triangle this way. And that way, I think I'm going to just, how do I want to draw this hand? Can we draw a hand doing that? That's so unnatural. That kind of seems a little too unnatural to me. So, let's just do this. Okay, so we got our bones. Well, if this is our halfway point, then we know that oops. We know that it's going to look like that about. This one's kind of tucked in, so it's shorter than that one. See that we're even doing a little bit of overlap. those knuckles. I'm going to just erase this so we don't have to erase our knuckles after we've drawn them. We can still use those as reference though, even though we've erased them. I'm just drawing in some quick little lines to indicate the joints. There we go. We have kind of another skinny hand. I guess that's just my technique, right? That's just my style. So now it's your turn to just finish all these off. I won't do this one. I'll let you guys do that one. I hope you enjoyed breaking down the hands. I know this is a lot to take in all at once, but you guys can do it. Just think about the structure underneath. Look back at our reference images. If you get confused, that's where the structures and the joints are, and then just put that skin over top of the joints, and you should be good to go. I want to help all aspiring artists become the artist of their dreams. Hi, I'm artist Jason Brubaker, and Cognitive Drawing is a learn-to-draw workbook unlike anything you've ever seen. This workbook solved a difficult problem. How can artists learn to draw anything quickly without spending a fortune? I've spent 3 years developing this workbook to accomplish that goal, and I'm excited to finally share it with all of you. I grew up in a small town. I had no more than high school education, but I was determined to teach myself how to draw. Well, it worked. And at the age of 21, I was represented by a top storyboarding agency in Hollywood as their fastest artist. And I worked in Hollywood for the next 20 years on hundreds of projects with all the top studios, as well as my own comics and graphic novels. One of the questions I get asked over and over is, how did I get my artwork to this professional level without an expensive art education? Cognitive drawing, of course. Although I wasn't aware of it at the time, when I was a kid, I accidentally discovered this method that I would later learn is called the testing effect. Studies have shown that the testing effect is one of the most efficient ways your brain retains new long-term information, and this book was developed using these same scientific principles. Cognitive Drawing has had over 1,000 beta testers, which have included homeschoolers, charter schools, high schools, and people who just wanted to expand on their college educations. Of those testers, 90% saw an immediate improvement in their drawing and retained what they learned. Over the course of 90 days, I'll be teaching you the techniques that made me the artist that I am. And with cognitive drawing, learning is as easy as sketch, test, and results. Pick up your copy and let's get started. If you're wondering if it'll work for you, feel free to download the sample worksheets and try it out for yourself.